Okay, we're back, everyone, and we're talking about all these crazy firings that are happening in the media world. Jeff Shell, the CEO of NBC Universal, was fired yesterday, and this morning we got the news out of the blue. Tucker Carlson was fired from Fox, ostensibly. They issued a pretty terse press release, so it's a real mystery what was happening behind the scenes. Are upcoming lawsuits? Do they have more material? And there is Brian. Hi,
Hi,
Brian.
how you doing?
I'm good. Welcome to Instagram Live. Is this your first Instagram Live?
I believe it is. You couldn't.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Well, welcome. Congratulations. And it's great to have you. And I was just telling our audience, Brian, that it has been a crazy, I guess, day and a half in media because we have Jeff Shell, the NBC Universal CEO, getting fired yesterday, Tucker Carlson, and now Don Lemon. So where do we begin, Brian?
is it?
You want to start with? Do you want to start with Tucker? I think
Yeah.
that's seems to be the most shocking, only because he was a cash cow for Fox. He didn't seem to be the guiltiest party in terms of disseminating lies about the election. It was very clear that the way he felt privately was very different than many of the things that he said publicly. So what happened with Tucker Carlson? And it did seem to come out of the blue, Brian.
It really is kind of a surprise. This is their most popular primetime anchor. This guy generates between 3 and 4 million people a day for each of his programs. There's a lot of speculation going around. Was there something? There are other court cases that Fox is about to grapple with. Smartmatic. There's one from a former Fox News producer who used to work for Tucker Carlson. Are there allegations in these suits that Fox is aware of that perhaps they know more than we do about what's going on? Or is it really just they just are liable for a massive payment for defamation settlement with Dominion Voting? Are they looking to cut costs? The Tucker show, as popular as it is, has no mainstream advertising. National advertisers do not advertise in this program. They're afraid of being called out by activists and critics. They're afraid of being aligned with some of his, less savory comments and views. And so that show has not been easy to sell to advertisers for several years now.
Well, they've got a lot of My Pillow commercials on there, Brian. Sometimes I watch Fox because I want to see how various media outlets are framing important issues. Yeah. And you're right. The advertising seemed pretty sparse, but someone we know who knows Fox pretty well believes that, and I didn't see this. I was not watching Tucker Carlson's show the night immediately after the Dominion settlement, but they thought that he doubled down on this idea of a stolen election and Rupert Murdoch had just had it. What are you hearing from inside Fox in terms of how Rupert Murdoch was feeling about the settlement and perhaps about some of his anchors?
Well, there's a lot of speculation. This is a massive payment. It is. Someone was giving me some figures. It could fuel reality series for half a year or more. It could fuel movie production. It's a massive amount. It is the biggest amount believed paid in defamation suit or settlement in history. And so, it's about almost a quarter of what Fox has on cash in its corporate bank. So it's no small amount. And I suspect that Murdoch's want to make money. They're not. That's first and foremost. And their track record at picking out anchors for primetime has worked in the past. They've lost Megyn Kelly and Bill O'Reilly. People thought they were done then. They bounced right back. So I think they're betting that they can find someone else who may be more in line with their current let not fire brand way of dealing with things, especially with a 24 election coming into the worldview. I suspect the Murdochs are kind of like, let's look at our money and see where it's going to be coming from next.
Yeah, but somebody asked, my friend Preet Bharara asked, so what happens to the January 6th footage Tucker was given? Do you have any idea?
Great question. I know a lot of other media outlets have filed, suits asking for access to that. I think the Speaker of the House is supposed to be able to disseminate as he sees fit. But it's another thing that I think Carlson has been on maybe the wrong side of in hindsight. These are not good topics for Fox to be discussing right now. They are clearly under scrutiny. Someone's got a roadmap to how to sue Fox and make money off of them. There's another lawsuit in the works. I'm a year and a half away from here. And, I think the Murdochs are kind of like, someone just figured out how to get cash from us. Let's figure out a way to not pay that cash out.
And what's interesting is somebody told me that Smartmatic had absolute 0.0 interest in settling. So as you said, who knows what more material might be found during discovery.
Right.
And if they, I guess it could mean a drip, drip, drip for Fox News. But how do you think this really affects the Smartmatic lawsuit, if at all?
Well, Smartmatic now, they have a roadmap. They know what documents are out there. The lawyer has come out recently saying we're not looking to settle. We're looking to move forward. Thanks a million for getting things started. We're going to finish it up. And that could be courtroom talk. That could be bouncing back and forth in their own effort to get a hefty settlement. By the way, they've asked for twice as much as Dominion has asked for, $2.7 billion rather than 1.6. No small change, and that would you figure Fox will make some more money over the next year and a half to offset that, but still not money you want to be giving out at this time when people are figuring out how to stream, how to get ad money. This is not a time to be losing money and deplete your cash reserves.
But do you think that Fox thinks that Smartmatic may look more favorably on what they did because people are being held accountable?
It's a theory. I don't know. Is that true? I don't know. I mean, the damage is already done. These are about things that happened in the past, not what's going to happen in the future. So, I mean, they got rid of Lou Dobbs immediately, and that did nothing to stem the tide. So I have to think that, whatever this is about, Dan Bongino, a hard right weekend host for Fox, who's a big hero in this conservative circles, was not ousted, but they couldn't come to a contract last week. So you start to see things are happening over there where some of their harder right personalities may be, exiting.
Well, it's interesting. Brian Stelter, who voraciously covered Fox during his time at CNN, quotes Newsmax CEO Chris Ruddy as saying, "For a while, Fox News has been moving to become establishment media, and Tucker Carlson's removal is a big milestone in that effort. Millions of viewers who like the old Fox News have made the switch to Newsmax, and Tucker's departure will only fuel that." I'm not quite sure that's exactly true.
Yeah.
I don't think Newsmax is killing it in terms of ratings, but they're clearly trying to position themselves as the far right choice, the far right option between Fox News and Newsmax. And so do you think this is going to help Newsmax? And do you think Tucker Carlson could end up there?
I think Tucker has enough money to last for a generation with him and his family. I don't think he needs to work ever again, is my guess.
But he wants a platform. He wants a voice. Come on.
No, he can start his own podcast and with digital site and get subscriptions and say whatever he likes. Going forward, he had the Daily Caller for a while as his own outlet. He can do that again very quickly. He can fund any outlet he might like immediately and go on air and get picked up that way if he really sees a need to be heard and wants to be part of that mix. A smaller venue, I think it's hard in today's world to make a cable network a big success in today's media economy. So I'm not sure about that, but look, Fox. Whatever you want to say about Fox, they continue to generate pretty big, sizable hits. Greg Gutfeld's late night show doing pretty well. The Five draws more viewers than Tucker Carlson at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and some of the personalities there, Jesse Waters and others, have their own shows. So Fox is continuing to kind of put out other people, the younger generation of viewers, of anchors, I should say, to keep their viewers, keep coming back.
I have to give you some sort of like developing information as we're talking. Steve Battaglio, who we both know from the LA Times, writes, "The decision to fire Tucker Carlson came straight from Fox chairman Rupert Murdoch, according to people familiar with the situation who were not authorized to comment." That is the theory from our friend who used to work at Fox News, that Rupert just got fed up with him.
Yeah, I believe that. I think a decision like this could only come from the Murdochs, not from Suzanne Scott, not from Jay Wallace, not from Meade Cooper, the head of primetime. This is a major personality, the anchor of their primetime lineup in terms of attitude and the news of the day. This could not come from anyone but the Murdoch family.
Right, is this from the LA Times too, Adriana?
LA Times.
That Carlson's exit is related to the discrimination lawsuit filed by Abby Grossberg. Do you want to describe what that lawsuit entails real quickly for us, Brian?
Absolutely. There's a former producer named Abby Grossberg who has filed suit right just as the Dominion voting was coming to trial. she's alleging that she was coerced into making testimony for Dominion, but also that things are going on at Tucker's show where she used to work that were, anti-Semitic, making fun of minorities, not a safe place for some people to be. That is a allegation that has dogged Fox for years since Roger Ailes was ousted about how safe a place it is for female workers and people of color. So I suspect that may have been a straw that Murdoch tells us that's a bridge too far to mix metaphors.
All right. Well, I think we can move on. There's some interesting stuff about Ray Epps, who Tucker Carlson said he was an FBI plant without any evidence. A Texas man who participated in the storming of the Capitol but didn't enter the building. He was interviewed on 60 Minutes and said he'd been subjected to death threats as a result of Tucker Carlson's statements about him. The FBI also told 60 Minutes that Epps had never worked for them. So it seems like it's death by 1,000 cuts, right? I mean, cuts are 1,000, I don't know, worse than cuts, but just he kept pursuing these bogus claims, and who knows if Rupert Murdoch got sick of it. So interesting. And do you think there was a lot of speculation Tucker Carlson would run for president. Do you think that would ever happen?
That's continued to be a theme going along. I've interviewed him on this. He's denied his interest in that kind of thing, but times have just changed.
All right, let's move on to Don Lemon, shall we? So Don Lemon said he was stunned, but CNN communications also. So Don Lemon, do we have the CNN communications thing? So Don Lemon in a statement, so he got fired. He said he was stunned. He was informed by his agent, not CNN management.
That's correct.
Meanwhile, CNN communications issued a statement saying Don Lemon's statement about this morning's events is inaccurate. He was offered an opportunity to meet with management, but instead released a statement on Twitter. Sounds like it's getting pretty ugly between Don and CNN.
These are both bad breakups. When an anchor is denied a chance to say goodbye in a final show, or when the anchor puts out a statement ahead of the network, these are not in sync. These are bad breakups on both sides. These are not amicable departures from either anchor, from Carlson.
All right. So let's talk about what led to Don. Hi, everybody. If you're just joining us, so a lot of times, Brian, we want to remind people. I'm talking to Brian Steinberg, who covers media for Variety. Brian, how long have you been at Variety?
10 years now.
10 years. And so you've been pretty deep in the weeds at all these organizations. And so Brian and I have been talking about Tucker Carlson, who was fired even though Tucker claimed they parted ways. It's pretty clear that he got, in modern day parlance, shit-canned, right, Brian, from Fox News. And now we're talking about Don Lemon and the same fate. He was met with the same fate this morning. There was some tension on the set where he ostensibly and reportedly yelled and lost his temper at Caitlin Collins, and there was all sorts of stuff happening behind the scenes. And then when Nikki Haley announced she was running for president, she made sort of a snide comment about Joe Biden's age. In response, Don, in a really clueless, tone-deaf way, talked about how women are not in their prime, or in their prime in their 20s and 30s, and maybe not even in their 40s, and you should Google it. And it was just really putting his foot in his mouth in a major way, Brian. So he got tremendous pushback from that. I had Lisa LaFlamme, the Canadian broadcaster, who was sort of unceremoniously fired, and a lot of people thought it was age discrimination. She said to me on our podcast, I was gobsmacked at the idiocy of that comment. There was a sanctimonious quality to the Google it part that I just was stunned at. And I'm exhausted by the head against the brick wall nature of a comment like that. Obviously, he wouldn't have said it if he didn't feel there was some kind of acceptability in society to make a comment like that, and that's a sad statement. She went on to say some more about that. And I asked her about her comment, Brian, that he was fired, and she said, my reaction, I guess he's past his prime. So there are a lot of people who are reacting that way. So is that, do you think, what prompted his firing, or was it continuing no chemistry between him and his co-anchors? You said something interesting to me about what was reported in the New York Post last week. Can you share that with our audience?
Yes. Are you hearing me again?
Yeah, I'm hearing you.
Yeah, it's our understanding the White House press secretary balked on a CNN morning interview because of Don Lemon. I've talked to people. I have confirmed that is accurate, that they could not book her last week because she was wary of appearing next to Don. I think she's in the past even weighed in on this conference from the White House podium. But this comment Don made has continued to haunt him, and it's my understanding they're having problems booking people on the show, and that ad sales at Warner, the parent company, has been complaining they can't sell the show. The chemistry is one thing; it has continued to be an issue. It's hard to come back from something like that. But the comment he made, look, meant the top audience of these morning programs are women between 25 and 54. That is the demo that advertisers want for every morning program. So once you kind of make a statement talking about that, you can lose your audience. It's clear that CNN probably needs to go back to the drawing board with this morning program. If you look at what's happened since Chris came on as CEO, been a lot of spaghetti thrown at the wall. Chris Wallace here, a Sunday evening documentary show there, a new daytime format here. They're trying a lot of different stuff in their efforts to kind of bring CNN back post 2020 when they had their all-time high ratings. So yeah, I think Don Lemon's comment has not died down, and it continues to haunt the show. And when bookings and ad sales become a question, there's a business imperative to change the show very quickly.
Brian, he's referenced larger issues at work. What do you think he was hinting at there?
Well, I think Don and Caitlin have had trouble. Caitlin and Don had the same agent. Caitlin recently jumped to another agency because she felt she wasn't being represented properly. I think as Variety reported recently, Don's had some issues with comments about women over the course of his career. I think it's all kind of just coalescing and building, and it's becoming tough for CNN to navigate that image he has with morning viewers.
Hey, you had something juicy though. Both according Brian Stelter, the aforementioned Brian Stelter said, there we go, I got rid of that question, said that Don Lemon and Tucker Carlson have retained the famously aggressive entertainment lawyer Brian Friedman.
That's interesting.
Tell us about Brian Friedman and why both of these guys went to hire him.
Brian Friedman is a bulldog attorney who has helped represent many different people in similar straits. He represented Megyn Kelly against NBC News when she was ousted a few years ago.
Didn't she make all the money from her contract, like $69 million?
That is correct. I believe he also represented Chris Cuomo recently against CNN when Chris Cuomo was ousted from CNN. Entertainment companies aren't always the savviest with contracts. There are ways that, I think they have these morals clauses are kind of, iffy and shaky and not always nailed down. Brian Friedman's pretty good at finding the loopholes and holding them to account for money that he believes his clients are due.
And to illustrate what a twisted web we weave, tell us who Don Lemon is hired to do his PR.
It's our understanding he's hired Alison Gollust, who is the former CMO of CNN, former head PR person for CNN, and also, as many people know, involved with Jeff Zucker, the former CEO of CNN and former EP of the Today Show.
And the reason for his firing from CNN is because they had an undisclosed relationship for years, although they would say not for years. And now I guess she doesn't have a job and he's working to try to buy some media properties, I think, right?
Yeah, he's backed by a large VC company.
Interesting. Fascinating that Don Lemon would make that choice. And you wonder, well, how is she going to work with Brian Friedman since Brian Friedman was representing Chris Cuomo?
That's interesting, too. I hadn't thought about it. You're correctly correct. But, people make a lot. It's just like Game of Thrones. Alliances change very quickly, right?
Okay. And I have to finally end by asking you, and then I'll jump to some questions, everybody. So Jeff Shell, he's the CEO of NBC Universal. He worked for the company for how long?
More than a decade. He used to.
No, I think it was more than that. He became
17 years.
I think so. He became the CEO of NBC Universal in 2020.
Yeah.
He was ousted because a woman with whom he apparently had an 11-year-long relationship, a woman who is a reporter for CNBC, who has a good name, but I can't, Hadley Gamble or something, based in Abu Dhabi, filed a complaint against Jeff Shell. I hope I'm getting this right. And it was investigated and he was fired. Okay. When will these guys ever learn, Brian Steinberg? When will they be able to keep it in their pants? How stupid are these guys?
It is a different world than what many guys grew up in, and I think people think that it doesn't apply to them. They're very powerful, can navigate around it, but these are issues that I think has yet to hit home for some people, obviously.
I mean, no other explanation. I cannot understand why someone in a position like that, Hadley Gamble is the woman's name who filed the complaint, how someone in a position like that, who apparently narrated and hosted the company's human resources videos about sexual harassment, like what?
Yeah, it's problematic. It's just in today's world. You've seen Leslie Moonves, Kevin Sujihara, many people fallen by these allegations.
Yeah, but you would think Brian, you would think post Me Too. I guess this predates Me Too, but you would think post Me Too that people like TJ Holmes at ABC and a whole assorted cast of characters would understand that this is not okay. This is not, I mean, they're playing with fire, and maybe that's part of the appeal, the riskiness of this, or the feeling that in a powerful position that the rules don't apply to them. I just can't figure it out.
Yeah. It's a little wild because the rules have changed, and why people are playing the old game is a little strange. I agree with you.
So, but before we go, and I know you probably have to report this out, Brian, for Variety, for the people who pay your bills, but do you see anyone else leaving Fox News?
Well, and this is the question we're all asking, because when this thing with Trump happened in 2020, they immediately got rid of people who were associated with the call for Arizona very quickly. Chris Starwalt, Bill Salmon, the Washington bureau chief, and now you see Dan Bongino leaving Tucker Carlson this week. So I think Maria Bartiromo, Jeanine Pirro are all named in these lawsuits. It's a question if there's some scrutiny.
I mean, they were bigger offenders than Tucker Carlson in perpetuating the rigged election theory or rigged election lie, weren't they?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, these are named in the lawsuits as defendants. They are have been under scrutiny for months. So yeah, it's a question, and you do have to wonder if maybe they're hanging around because they want to keep them under the Fox umbrella while the court cases are still being in discovery and being investigated. Maybe it's advantageous from a legal perspective. I don't know, but there are issues here. I think it looks like, at least from the outside, that we're seeing some things happening very quickly.
Someone said Laura Coates last week, now Don Lemon. I'm not up on Laura Coates. What happened to Laura Coates?
Well,
I thought that she...
Yeah, Laura Coates apparently has been told that she's not going to be doing 11 o'clock much longer at CNN. Again, these are all shows that are being spaghetti at the wall. There's a 10 o'clock hour and 11 o'clock hour. I know there's some concern about ratings for Laura Coates, but apparently she was told that she's not guaranteed that 11 o'clock slot anymore. There's a question at CNN about people of color being represented across the network schedule, which is a valid concern.
Someone said, yes, they're taking away representation. I mean, part of the problem is Chris Licht, who I've known for some time, is doing a lot of experimentation. And that can be very tricky, can it not? Because you don't want to necessarily put someone who doesn't click with the audience on television. On the other hand, if they're clicking with some people, then there's a backlash against the decision if you make a change, right? And what you're seeing with Laura Coates.
Chris is doing this all in real time. It's tricky it's like flying the plane while fixing the plane at the same time. It's difficult. He is doing things in real time, live on air. The experiments are taking place as you watch CNN, not behind the scenes. So there are chances that people make connections and win fans, yet it's not good enough for the overall business. And management goes in a different direction than the viewer might like.
Someone asked me, being inside this world for so long, how do you think they're asking me, how do you think the other on-screen talent is dealing with this? What do you think the atmosphere going on inside Fox News, and for that matter, CNN is at this point?
Look, I think it depends. I mean, I think on the news side, Tucker was a thorn, perhaps. I think a lot of the news side people don't love the theories that get bandied about during prime time, and it kind of gets them crazy. Tucker also, you saw in documents, asked for someone to be fired on the news side because they were not towing the line, Trump-wise after the election. So, probably as in any newsroom, TV newsroom, probably mixed feelings. Some people probably upset. Some people probably like, let me call my agent, see if I can get in there.
The investigation into Mr. Shell arose from a complaint by my client of sexual harassment and sex discrimination. Given these circumstances, it's very disappointing that my client's name has been released and her privacy violated, said Susan McKee, a managing partner at her law firm that's based in the UK. Yeah, so maybe I shouldn't have said her name, but it's been made public. So, any other final thoughts? Somebody asked me what I thought about all of this, and if we're going to go back from TV personalities to journalists. And I'm afraid that the media landscape has been sort of so bifurcated and for so long. I don't know if they go back to old-fashioned journalism. What do you think, Brian?
Some of the experiments are old-fashioned journalism. I think this Jen Psaki show on MSNBC, longer interviews. Yeah, not particularly.
Yeah, but she's clearly a Democrat. It's not like she's an unbiased. She's not a journalist. I mean, I think she would consider herself a journalist, but she's not unbiased. No. She's representing, and when she interviews Democrats, it's not like she's super challenging.
No, I agree. But at the same time, in today's world, that's like deep dive stuff. Also, I think this CNN Sunday Night program, this whole world with Anderson Cooper, an hour-long deep dive topic on one thing, a little more immersive. People are trying stuff. I think there is a sense at some of the networks that things have gone too far. It's all about complaining and axe grinding, and not about fact-finding and analyzing. And I think there's a concern about it. Now, how much people can do about that in an era where news doesn't get a rating you need to survive the economy is a matter of discussion. But so there are a lot of issues happening, and the world is changing very quickly.
And the landscape has been so fragmented, and this has been going on for several years. News has become so commoditized, people can get it anywhere. Linear television viewing has been declining for years. I know that from my own experience when I anchored the CBS Evening News. Some of that are market forces and the fact that people can get news and information in other places. So it's a very different and a very difficult and challenging media landscape because, when I did the Today Show, people turned on the TV, listened to NPR or their local radio station, or read their newspaper, grabbed it on their front steps.
Yeah.
And there weren't so many options. And when it comes to young people, nobody I know, certainly not my daughters, nobody I know watches TV news under the age of 40.
Yeah, it's a problem. Anytime you see the morning anchor of a network, Gayle King, get a job at CNN at the same time, things are changing very quickly, and the audiences are so split that both networks agreed to make that deal happen.
Yeah.
Very strong, not the norm.
Were you surprised at that, by the way, just in closing? And what do you think of this show with Gayle and Charles Barkley? And what do you think? I guess it's just one night a week.
Yeah.
And is that going to be enough to really give CNN the kind of kick in the pants and kind of will it help the network rise?
They'll get a boost. It's a pop cult. I think they're creating a Larry King type show again, not a fire and brimstone anchor show. This might do it. Gayle King could be a Larry King. I think she has the wherewithal to become like the kind of serious but not too hardline interviewer, and can do that kind of stuff. I think could be a really interesting hire for CNN. The mix of a sports figure plus a newscaster. This is happening on ABC's Good Morning America with Michael Strahan, Nate Burleson over at CBS Mornings. This is a form people are trying to bring sports into the news mix. I'm sure purists are horrified, but it is, in a world where people want some entertainment, seeming to add some kick to the mix. So I would be interested to see what happens. I'm surprised CBS signed off on it. But, in a world where they think that it can generate some viewership for Gayle, that will come back to CBS as well. There are all kinds of other strategies at hand.
Like a symbiotic thing, like Anderson Cooper doing 60 Minutes and doing CNN. Right. So it's not unprecedented.
Yeah, that's right. You're right.
And exactly so. CNN was generous initially, so now CBS is generous with their talent, right? So
long over the years, try to work together. They have different. They're hoping about merging them. There's always been talk about CBS and CNN. I think they have a good working relationship behind the scenes too.
Yeah. Well, interesting. Thank you so much, Brian. This was a fun conversation. Thanks for your time. I'll let you get back to your reporting. If you find out anything juicy, text me.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thanks for having me on, Katie.
Thanks a lot, Brian. Okay. Bye, everybody.